Yeah, so hi guys, welcome to this video.
Hey.
This is Gino.
I'm the director of the archives and the Rose Museum here at Carnegie Hall.
So he's really nice, let me come in here and talk a little bit with him, interview him a little.
Yeah, it's going to cost her a lot of money. She doesn't know that yet.
I don't know much about archives. Could you tell me a bit about what you do? And
Sure. I mean, I didn't know much about archives either. I wanted to be a conductor when I grew up, and I was born there in San Francisco. And I had to come to New York to study. You know, I was at a small college, and one of my teachers said, "You need to come to New York." And so I did, and I auditioned for any school that would take me. You can see I'm Italian or still think I'm a conductor. And somebody I was with said, "You need to be an usher at Carnegie Hall." And I thought, really, why? And they said, well, it's a house of one-nighters. One night's Boston Symphony, one night Ella Fitzgerald, one night Chicago Symphony. And you can actually learn repertoire very quickly, and they pay you $6 a night. Seems like nothing now, but I was actually able to make my expenses. And they were right. I was able to see Horowitz and Sinatra, and then I became the artist attendant backstage, which was a wonderful position because you had to greet the artist at the door, take them up to the dressing room, you know, get them to the stage, and then get them out. And sometimes it was just me and the performer standing by the stage door, and I can't explain what that experience was like. It was just amazing. So then I left to continue my studies in Italy, and it's so weird where your life takes you sometimes. I left here to continue my studies in Italy, and I was happy. I had a piano up at my grandmother's farm, and I was studying conducting, everything I wanted to do. I was in Italy. What's wrong with this picture, you know? And then my teacher died, and I had the opportunity to study with somebody else, but I needed $3,000 more. So I came back here, and I said to Carnegie Hall, I'll do anything for $3,000. And our executive director at the time realized this was 1986. And in 4 years, Carnegie Hall was going to be 100 years old. She says, we have no archives here. I don't know how many times Brahms been done here, you know. She said, if you start our archives, I'll give you the money. And I thought, cool. And I called a friend and I said, I have to start an archives. What is that? Almost, not quite, but almost. And what I learned was it's the repository for a place's history, you know? So I thought, for a place like Carnegie Hall, wow, this is going to be easy, a piece of cake. And we went through the whole building, and there was nothing here. Nothing. Not the program from opening night, 1891, not from when the hall was saved in 1960. Not the first program that I've got here that I was going to show you of the very first concert that the Youth Symphony's done. Nothing. In fact, there was just a few boxes of material, and it makes sense once you know the history of Carnegie Hall, because as my friend told me way back, who recommended I be an usher, this is a house of one-nighters. So one night it's Ella Fitzgerald, the next night it's the Boston Symphony, the next night the Chicago Symphony, and when they left, they would take everything with them. They had their own archives. If you wanted information about the Chicago Symphony at Carnegie Hall back then, you needed to call the Chicago Symphony. And so here we didn't have anything. We had a few boxes of things, but it wasn't much. And so where do you go to find somebody? I remember going back to her, to the executive director, saying, there's nothing here. She goes, I know, that's what we're paying you to do. By accident, I was at a flea market, and I was looking for an image of a cat for a friend of mine's birthday. And while I was going through stuff, it pulled out, there was a program from 1941, you know, and all this junk in the schoolyard. And the guy said, oh, give me $1 for it. And I thought, oh, that's cool. I said, I need a lot of these, and I think I need like 30,000 of them. And he said, what? And I said, we're starting the archives for Carnegie Hall. I need to collect things, you know. And he said, you need to put an ad in this. And it was a trade publication. It was called Antique Week, you know. And I called him up. I said, can I put an ad in this? And he said, what do you want to say? And I said, I don't know, Carnegie Hall wanted everything, you know.
That's sweet, yeah. That's cool.
Do you see that?
It says, we're searching for programs, photos, recordings, poster, memorabilia, all related to Carnegie Hall. Isn't that amazing? I still kept this. We put ads in Vermont and in Maine and in New Hampshire because there are a lot of flea markets and antique fairs up there. Mm-hmm. And these ads were not expensive. They were $15, $20 a month, you know. And one day the phone rang and a woman said, I'm the librarian for the Winter Park High School in Winter Park, Florida. Mrs. So-and-so across the street died, left us all her stuff, and there's a program from opening night 1891. Do you want it? I thought I was going to have a heart attack, you know. Then there's this magazine called Modern Maturity, which is a magazine for the American Association of Retired Persons that back in 1987 reached 27 million people. From that one article, we received 15,000 pieces. We started finding out things that we didn't know, that Margaret Sanger talked about birth control here, or that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle spoke about spiritualism here. It was starting now to develop into for me, a whole nother institution that I really didn't understand before. All of us have collected probably 300,000 pieces, and we've documented almost 50,000 events, which is more than any other concert hall on the planet. It's incredible, you know. We've been given grants to digitize it all and make it available for people to see online.
Yeah, so the New York Youth Symphony, they play at Carnegie Hall like 3 times a year now. And so yeah, I just played with them this last year. We also went to Spain this summer, if you guys don't know.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool.
And when was their like first concert?
This one, which was December 1, 1963. Isn't that amazing? And look, David Epstein was the conductor, and look who the violinist was.
Yeah.
It's our problem. And these have all been digitized, so you'll be able to go online soon to see them. And here are some different flyers of just different events that they've done here over the years. Robert Hart Baker, I worked with him, so this must have been in the 1980s.
So they were called the Youth Symphony Orchestra of New York at the time?
Right. What are they called now?
The New York Youth Symphony.
Ah, it's funny. Same thing.
Yeah.
You know, it's taken 30 years, but we now have a good handle on our history. Every day I go onto eBay. You know, I'm on there twice a day.
A lot of cool stuff here.
Yeah.
It's like the process, like if you find something, like how do you like add it in, I guess, like how do you like organize it or like.
So yeah, so I find something and hand it over to Rob. Rob adds it to our database. Then Kathleen puts it in folders like this, and then it gets put onto a database, and then now it actually gets digitized and then gets into our digital asset management system. So if I'm looking up the Youth Symphony, I don't have to go downstairs and go through 300,000 programs. I just look it up here,
on the
and
computer,
it'll tell you what box it's in or what folder it's in.
Yeah, no, on the bus in Spain, like Mike played some of the recordings for us.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like which pieces?
We played Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony.
Nice.
Korngold Violin Concerto.
Excellent.
Bartok Concerto for Orchestra.
Wow.
Dvorak, New World.
New World Symphony, which had its premiere right here.
Yeah.
Do you know Dvorak was sitting on the second tier?
It's really cool. Yeah, he like wrote it in New York, right?
He wrote it here, and he wrote it out in Iowa, Spillville, Iowa. There was a group of Czechoslovakian, as they were known at the time, immigrants who lived out there. And he went out there and was inspired.
Yeah.
You know.
And Bartok, he wrote.
Same.
Here too, ish. Yeah.
That's right.
Close.
He actually lived down the street. There's a plaque.
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Oh, you have. It's at
Cool.
305 West 57th
Yeah,
Street.
like that. And it was the premiere here too. Right.
Of the
Bartok.
Concerto for Orchestra. I think the New York premiere was here. Yeah, this was somebody's apartment,
Oh wow.
which is pretty amazing. There were 150 apartments here that Andrew Carnegie had built on the south and on the east side of the building, and that was to help supplement the income to the hall. This is one of the apartments. Look at this. In fact, down here, that's a photo of what this apartment looked like in 1898. Isn't that cool? And that's a photo of the hall in construction. This is the way it looked for the first 3 years of its history. And in fact, you can see out front, there are stairs that are no longer there. In the 1920s, the city of New York told every building on West 57th Street, you have 1 year to get rid of your stairs, because they wanted to make the street wider. And they did it in 1 year. And then look at this. This is Pete Seeger, Bob Dylan, Judy Collins, and Arlo Guthrie. The Rolling Stones. Isn't that cool? They actually played, the Beatles were here in February of 1964, and most people don't know the Stones came the same year in June. Come on in this way.
Whoa.
So look at this. This is... Those are programs that go all the way back to 1891.
Is it like important that this room is like air conditioned?
Oh yeah. You can never stop the deterioration of items, but of paper, cardboard, things with acid lignins that actually activate the higher the temperature goes.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't really stop the deterioration, but you can slow it down a lot.
Right.
By
So yeah,
keeping
this
it
room
cool.
is well air conditioned.
And so we have temperature controls and humidity controls as well. We've got down here, we have 2 dehumidifiers going, and then down there is a big humidifier. One of the most valuable items we have, this is one of the few drawings we have in the original architect's hand. You can see all of this is actually pencil. Fine point pencil and shading. It's incredible. Most of the original drawings from 1889 and 1890 and 91 are all missing. It's incredible. We've been searching for more than 33 years. Look at this photo. This is really cool. This is Booker T. Washington, the founder of Tuskegee Institute, and he's talking on our stage in 1906, and right behind him is Mark Twain. So we have our posters, we have flyers, we have special collections here. And these movable shelves are very cool because they allow us to hold 3 times more in the same space. There's nothing heavier than paper piled one on top of the other. And so this floor actually had to be restructured to hold all of this weight. These are all our hard drives. Look at all this. These are just some of the hard drives that we have where we've put all of the film and digital assets that we've been doing. When I asked Kathleen to pull the Youth Symphony program, she knew it was in this box. It says Carnegie Hall Programs, November 22, 1963, December 28, 1963. And then each one of them has its own folder. So you find the right spot and you put it in. You have to be careful because if you put it in the wrong spot, it might be 20 years before somebody finds it, you know? New York Youth Symphony. And as you said, now we have them in 2 different places because it's also the Youth Symphony of New York, you know? Yeah. And these are acid-free. And what does that mean? That means that the acid from the paper is not touching each other, and so they're secure. And do we make mistakes? Sometimes we do. It's not like, oh geez, I have to put all these away. It's a pleasure because you're keeping them for the next people who are coming by. It's really an extraordinary honor, I think, anyway. Mm-hmm. You find something, you think, wow, I forgot I had that, you know, and it's really cool. Sometimes they'll say, Kathleen, where did we get this? And she'll say, you bought it 30 years ago. You know? So here alone we have 300,000 pieces.
Yeah.
You know?
So yeah, thank you so much for letting me come here and showing me all that stuff. Yeah.
I hope it was good.
Yeah, I hope you guys thought that was cool, and yeah.
See ya.
Yep.